Now to the conflict in Gaza. A new round of Israeli airstrikes killed several Palestinians while militants launched rocket fire and mortars into Israel. CCTV's Roee Ruttenberg is live in Tel Aviv, where the Israeli military says it carried out strikes on terror targets in Gaza. Roee.
Indeed, and that's what we've been hearing from the Israeli government. On Monday night, they issued a statement and some accompanying maps, which they say show that of the more than 100 rockets fired at Israel from Gaza on Monday, several came from an area near a medical facility, Shahuda Hospital, in the Al-Shati refugee camp there in Gaza, as well as from some specific areas, a basketball court, they said, and some schools housing some of the people who have been receiving shelters during the increased operations there in Gaza. Israel, of course, saying that it sent messages to the residents of Gaza to avoid contact with militants or areas where militants are operating. We understand that a number of people have actually been heeding those warnings and indeed evacuating their homes. But on Monday, airstrikes killed at least 9 Palestinians, according to sources there on the ground. 2 women and a girl were killed in Beit Lahia in the targeting of four homes in that area. We understand that one of the homes belonged to a top Hamas official, that is according to local sources on the ground. 5 others were killed in a separate strike. And of course also one Palestinian journalist there in Gaza, 26-year-old Abdullah Marjata, killed in one of those strikes. Now this of course brings the Palestinian death toll. It has been now over 2,000, and Palestinian officials are saying they are very worried about the escalating death toll. We know that the Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas was in Cairo on Monday pushing for an end to this continuing conflict, and we heard mixed reports about a possible ceasefire that would be reached. The Egyptians are pushing for not just a ceasefire but an indefinite truce, and there were mixed reports about who is in favor of it, who's against it, and who's an obstacle. We heard suggestions that Islamic Jihad, one of the other factions there in Gaza, would be supporting a ceasefire. Then we heard reports that Hamas would support it if the Israelis would. Then again reports that they wouldn't support it. At the moment, of course, the fighting continues, intensified since the last ceasefire on Tuesday finished.
And Roee, we understand a number of Israeli families in the south have begun evacuating with the help of the government. What more can you tell us about that?
Indeed, 2 interesting responses from the government on Monday. First of all, the Bank of Israel lowering interest rates, if you will allow me economically to speak here, by 1/4 point to 0.25, the lowest that it's ever been. This in response to the fact that consumer spending has fallen and that tourism has fallen. So they're trying to prevent a further effect on output here on GDP. The second is that they have for the first time announced public support for families there in the south of Israel and communities 5 kilometers away from the border of Gaza who want to evacuate. They have done so before, they have supported them, but now they're basically allowing for a voluntary evacuation for some of the families who wish to go to safer areas. One of the Israeli ministers, security cabinet ministers, visited one of the areas, Kibbutz Nachal Oz in the south. If you remember, on Sunday, that community buried the 4-year-old boy, Daniel Tragerman, who was killed from shrapnel on Friday from a Palestinian rocket. His grandmother confronted the minister and saying, this is enough, the government must do something to end this. So they, of course, are coming under increasing tension. The school year is set to start here in Israel, and a lot of the families say there they simply cannot continue living with the barrage of rockets. And if you recall, it's not just the rockets that are coming into central Israel and further away, but the communities in the south are more exposed to the short-range mortars. Most of those sirens that we've been hearing on Monday have actually been specifically in those border area towns.
All right, CCTV's Roee Ruttenberg reporting live from Tel Aviv.